Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wins here for the Bier Fest Tournament in Golf Clash, the game video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can take the next step in your game by getting the ultimate tournament guides or the exclusive tour text guides on Patreon. Link to Patreon and our guides is in the description down below. As always, we do have an info box for you on the right hand side where you can follow along with the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you play as always whatever way you want, but I always have a plan with my adjustments. So let's go to hole number 1. Alright, so for hole number 1, we are going to use the rock. This, as we do have a very good accuracy, we also have a good amount of power with the rock. So the rock is actually one of my favorite clubs nowadays. 2.5 bar top spin, 2 bars of right spin, and I'm starting at the plus 5 yard mark with the white ring to the right by the rough. Adjust max plus 20. We are playing a very elevated drive. Once that is done, we shall not apply any curl whatsoever or overpower. A great right and a great left will still be fine. Fine. Our idea here is to get the ball to get up the hill here a little bit by the 2 bunkers, to then fall down to position itself around 330 to 335 yards. From there, we are going to use our sniper, and here you will have to have a sniper level 8 or better, otherwise this shot will not work for you, as you do need the backspin. You can see here now that I'm trying to catch the funnel that is at after the pin. You can see that I'm moving left and right, and the ball guideline is still stuck at the hole. And that's the important part, because that means that we are inside the funnel, which will give us a room for error. Now this adjustment will be all from medium to maximum distance with a 10% elevation. It's very important that you do check your club distance to make sure that you do get the correct adjustment. Obviously this is a hole that we have had in many guides before, and obviously there should be references for you to use. Adjustment is done, we bounce on the fairway, we get up the hill. You can see that little extra rollout is what we are looking for, and then it takes its turn, fall down towards the pin, and we get this ball to drop for a lovely eagle here in hole number 1. For those being able to play with sniper level 8 or better, will have a massive advantage over those that cannot play with that type of club, because if you cannot play with a backspin to get it up the hill like that, even if you have the Guardian, you don't have the ball guidelines. You need the backspin and the ball guideline like the sniper is having. So if you don't have that possibility, the eagle is going to be a tough thing to get. But if you have the setup here, as we do have in the video, then an eagle here is going to be the most likely outcome if you do everything correct. For hole number 2, we are going to play a rough bump, and here we would like to start at the top of the plus 2 yard mark with the yellow ring by the rough line. This for consistency, to make sure that we're gonna hit the same spot all the time. 0.3 right spin and 0.2 top spin, ball guideline going left side of the cup. Adjustment is gonna be a push adjustment because the trees will otherwise be in our face. 6.3, we're gonna adjust max plus 25% power 3 ball settings here for this adjustment. Once we have adjusted, we shall center the ball and hit perfect. I would like to say that have in mind that a great right with this shot will not be safe, but a great left and a perfect will of course be safe, and we're trying to catch the funnel to get this ball to drop like this every single time for an hole-in-one on one of the par 3s in the game that I do believe there is the most hole-in-ones on, due to this massive funnel that we're playing into. What you need to have in mind though is that you can bounce on the fairway over towards the green and have a safe putt for birdie if that's the only interest that you're having on this hole. But to make an hole-in-one, playing on that fairway is useless, because there are so many bumps, so much inconsistency, and thinking about that funnel on the left, that's a gamble, not a gamble, but that's a risk that I do believe is worth taking, because a perfect ball would most likely be in with the correct adjustment and correct execution every single time. So I recommend the rough bump, but again, if you're only interested in a birdie, you can remove all the risks by using the fairway to bounce on instead. For hole number 3, I want us to start with the driver that gives us the most power and topspin possible. And here we're gonna do the drive in 2 different ways, depending on what type of wind direction we are going to have. If we do have a crosswind or a headwind, we shall try to bounce the ball just before the rough, trying to use the topspin and the right spin to get the ball to be up the hill to the right and then to fall down. Obviously, we want us to prevent the ball from rolling into the rough there on the left, so make sure that you counteract with side spin to the right, so you're not rolling all the way over to the other side, which unfortunately is a risk if you're using left spin, for an example. If you do have a tailwind of T, then you shall go with max overpower, using still max topspin and right spin, trying to gain as much distance as possible on that fairway, because that could get you up into a long iron / a short iron position instead of the position we are in now. Because if we do the shot or the drive in crosswind and headwind, we're gonna have a guardian towards the pin. This is actually a pretty decent chance, in my opinion, where we use the backspin of the guardian to roll back towards the pin. And I'm not gonna say that this is going to be an albatross that's gonna drop, but it's going to be a shot that's always going to be close. And by using slider percentage based on your yardage, as we're playing a linear way of this hole, it's definitely going to give you a couple of extra percent chance of getting this one to drop a couple of more times than it would have done otherwise. 10% elevation is what I'm using, and true club distance. Obviously now a great ball did help me because it was clear that I did over adjust my shots, but I will take it. A great ball for an albatross is always feels a little bit embarrassing, but it's nonetheless very nice to get it. So again, a little bit over adjusted in the video there, which then made the great ride help me immensely to get that albatross. But in the end though, the guardian gives us a good look at the albatross on hole 3. For hole number 4, when having a wind like this coming a little bit with tailwind and crosswind, this is going to be a tough one, especially as I would like to play with a grizzly as a long iron and a sniper with a wood club. You can play with a Goliath and you will never have this issue, but the Goliath's ball guideline is super crap, which obviously will give us not as consistent result as we would like. Now I'm using 3 right spin. I'm also then using backspin to pin. Red ring by the rough line, and then we shall try to push the adjustment here due to the fact that we otherwise would be having the tree in our face. I adjust a little bit too little for this shot. I would recommend to play minimum distance plus 20 to get this one to be correct, because in this case, when the wind pushing left to right, we have 3 right spin, then it's going to be tough to get the direction correct, as everything is going to push right, and then it's easy to miss right as well. You can see that I'm having the navigator in the info box, which obviously are wrong. So Katana is the ball to use, as we do need and want the side spin 3 there to make sure that we're not aiming too close to the rough line and risk clipping the rough with a great right. Hole number 5, and here we're going to go for the ball to roll down the hill. And it may look scary with all the trees there, but to be honest, we don't really have any other opportunity here, in my opinion, because having to lay up on the first fairway and then attacking the pin from a very elevated place where we can't zoom in properly, that's gonna just be equally a birdie regardless. So that's why in whatever type of wind here, we're gonna gamble and try to get the ball down the hill. So I'm adjusting max no elevation, and I'm using max topspin 1 left spin. Ball bounce on the fairway over the rough there to then roll down the hill here nicely. Obviously the bunker here to the left is in play, but it's gonna not be that much in play if you're not hitting a very bad great left, for an example. But if we do get down there on the fairway, we're gonna play a wedge towards the pin. Here I would recommend to play with max topspin with your wedge to minimize the amount of airtime the ball will have. And in that case, then obviously the adjustment will be less, as the ball will not be affected as much by the wind. But if you don't want to do that and you rather want to go with an EB school method, we do recommend 20% elevation with the EB school method, which is then played without any spins. But again, I would recommend to use max top spin if possible to minimize the air time and have a much easier wedge to play. Hole number 5, in regardless what wind direction we have, once again, we shall push to get the ball down the hill, and this is and has to be an eagle. For hole number 6, let's pray for tailwind, because tailwind is going to be much easier for you to play with than what it would be with crosswind and headwind. So I will explain what to do in crosswind and headwind after we have taken the shot here in tailwind. 4.5 bar topspin, 1 right spin, and I'm playing a no movement. No movement means that I'm not touching my target until it's time to adjust the rings. Adjustment is max plus 20, and once that is done, I push up my target to max. And then I will apply overpower. So for 7 miles per hour wind, I'm using 2 rings of overpower for this drive. I'm using even 3 rings of overpower. Forgot about that I changed there in the end. So 3 rings of overpower for this drive. When it comes to headwind and crosswind, we're gonna do a double bounce over the rough, meaning that we shall use the driver with the most possible topspin and power that we do have. So for an example, if I would be playing with XMI level 8, as I do in the video, I would be playing with all its topspin, and I would be aiming for a double bounce to go over the rough. Obviously, with a direct headwind, it's gonna require big boy clubs, or you're gonna have to lay up on the top right of the first fairway, trying to just get yourself down there to then secure the eagle from distance. So, but if all goes well, and if it's not a direct headwind and you have crappy clubs, then we shall be doing either a single bounce over the rough like we did here in tailwind, or it's going to be a double bounce over the rough for crosswind and headwind. Now, second shot here. Now we're going to try to find some sort of a reference, but I'm a little bit in no man's land. But here, for the sake of consistency, we would like to have a landing position yardage or a frame check or a pin check for that matter to be able to dial this shot in. 2.2 top spin and 1 right spin. I'm having the ball guideline to hole, trying to keep the blue ring by the rough line to be a constant landing position to make sure that I still have the same distance for the ball to roll every single time and only tweaking spin. Elevation is minus 10% here, and what you will have to do here is obviously to estimate the club distance if you don't have any slider to follow. So estimate the club distance based on where maximum distance are or minimum distance are, and use minus 10% elevation. Coming in a little bit hot, but luckily the pin is there as well for an albatross here on hole number 6. And I would say that this rough bump is definitely a makeable shot, but it's not as easy as it looks, as I said in the rookie video as well, because there are some moving parts, and as it's not a linear hole, you need to be really correct with your estimation of this club distance towards the pin. For hole number 7, this is, in my opinion, a good opportunity for a drop. If you have the possibility to play with a sniper level 8 or better. Now, for those of you that may thinking, alright, maybe a side spin 4 or side spin 5 ball would be good for that rough bump. Yeah, I do think it would. But here we don't play with any special balls. We do play with the free-to-play balls options. 3.5 backspin, 3 right spin, blue ring by the rough line with a white ring to the right by the tree. And after that, we shall adjust max plus 15. We do adjust the max plus 15, and then we will apply curl. You can see that I'm using 0.75 ball to the right outside the ring. Bounces nicely on the fairway. We're getting it up there to the top right of the green, which is exactly what we want. It rolls back right that pin for a beautiful hole-in-one. So the idea here is to get the ball up to the top right of the green, have it fall down towards the pin for a hole-in-one, which not it won't be common, but it won't be rare either with an hole-in-one here on hole number 7. So I do like this adjustment a lot, especially when we can play with a katana. Hole number 8, another short par 4, and here we most definitely need to see ourselves getting an eagle, because the majority of your opponents will be getting an eagle here. Max topspin, 1 left spin. My aim here is to look for the second bounce to be approximately halfway down the second patch of rough. Pause it and take a look at what I mean, because that position is super duper important in tailwind. If we do have a headwind, we need to move the target further up to have the second bounce further down because of the compressed ball guideline. I'm playing with a navigator ball here because I want to prevent myself from going in between clubs in tailwind, using medium distance plus 10 and all the topspin I can use with my big topper. Ball will then bounce into the rough, then to slow down and end up by the green here for a very simple wedge. Obviously, those that do have the possibility to play with a lot of curl can curl around the trees instead, which I do think is a very interesting situation or interesting shot to play, which most likely will come in play in the tournament depending on what wind angle we're having. But the shot here displayed is a possibility to play with regardless what type of wind angle you're having, and that's why that's my main focus here in this video. Second shot, I would say the same as I said on hole number 5. You can play EB School, you play 20% elevation for EB School, or you can use max topspin to minimize the flight time or air time and then have a much less adjustment. It's up to you whatever way you want to play your wedge, but those are the two alternatives I would in this case suggest here on hole number 8, which is once again a must eagle. For hole number 9, we are going to have a good chance here for an albatross, and I would say that if we do have in all winds besides direct headwind, I see this one as a very makeable albatross and almost a must one in my opinion. 3 left spin, a little bit of top spin. I'm using the quarterback level 9 or level 10 here to start a complete max with the red ring halfway into the rough on the left. If I do play with a quarterback level 7 or 8, I would push up 5 yards after adjustment to compensate for the less power that I'm having. Adjust max plus 10, then I'm using the ball to be halfway inside the wall to the left in curl. Bounce on the fairway nicely, and now we do need to get this ball up to approximately where the shadow, you can see the shadow on the left side of the game screen, so around 320 to 325 yards is absolutely perfect. Because now the second shot we're going to use topspin, a fixed amount of topspin, which is 3.5, and I'm going to look to have, you can see that the left side of the white ring is by the rough line, with the top of the yellow ring by the edge of the shadow. And you can see that I'm moving around a little bit here to try to find the sticky spot, because there is a little sticky spot there, but I like to find the white ring and the yellow ring to collaborate in a good way. You can see that the ball guideline going up the hill there a little bit, and also missing the pin on one green square to the left of the pin. And that is the important part here, to have the ball guideline positioned in a correct way. Maximum distance minus 10%. This is an uphill adjustment. You can see that in the view here, that we are playing actually following up a hill here. So this ball will be very less affected by the wind. Bounce on the fairway, you can see here now the ball will roll past the pin exactly as planned, and then turn around at the top of the hill to fall down into that little funnel there to get us an albatross from distance. Again, this is a very makeable shot, but make sure that you set it up properly and you will have a very good chance on hole 9. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wins for the Bier Fest Tournament in Golf Clash at the game. Once again, take the next step in your game by getting the Ultimate Tournament Guides and exclusive tour text guides on Patreon. Link to Patreon and our guides is in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Thank you once again for watching, and good luck in a Golf Clash game.